Over the last 2 weeks, Andrew, we've generated $5.4 billion in BTC gains. We're making $500 million a day. I'm staring at my screen and we're selling dollar bills for $3, sometimes a million times a minute. And so it's not impossible. I mean, we may very well be the most profitable company in the United States, growing the fastest right now, because there's not many companies that are making $500 million a day doing what they're doing. And so if you don't like Bitcoin, you don't want any piece of it. But if you like Bitcoin, then this is a monster for you.
That right there was Giga Chad, Big Balls himself, Michael Saylor, describing to Andrew Sorkin on CNBC late last year how Strategy is basically pulling in gargantuan sums of money every single day, and it just might well be the most profitable company in the United States, all thanks to Bitcoin. That's wild stuff, and I want to build off of that idea. Meaning, why can we describe what Saylor is doing right now as almost the biggest trade in human history? And why am I using the word almost? And, well, what's it all really mean for the price of our Bitcoin bags, okay? What's it mean for you? That's what I want to discuss today. So let's jump straight into it. Look, Michael Saylor, Strategy, it's been a wild ride, man. Strategy currently holds 628,000 or so Bitcoin. And given that each coin is currently valued at 110, 115,000, 120,000, whatever the price is when you're watching this video, around that area, it means that they're holding a staggering sum of BTC worth around $74 billion. Now, Strategy's average purchase price is $73,000 per coin. So when we subtract the money the Strategy has spent on their Bitcoin from their portfolio's value, we can see a wild, insane number, an unrealized profit close to $30 billion. It's crazy, man. Of course, leading some people over on social media to say what Saylor and Strategy have done is the greatest trade in history. And just sticking with AP Abacus's post here for a minute, obviously you can see how Saylor's $30 billion here trade blows out the other examples that he's listed from George Soros, Bill Ackman, and many other incredibly famous, incredibly rich investors who made insane trades. These billions in the single digits, though, ain't nothing to Saylor's $30 billion. And when Bitcoin goes to 300,000 per coin, that's going to be almost $100 billion. When it goes to $1 million per coin, that's going to be $300 billion. Anyway, I double-checked this idea with Grok, meaning what's the largest financial trade in history in terms of realized profits, excluding mergers and acquisitions. It looks like the largest trade is actually John Paulson's 2007 short on the U.S. subprime mortgage market. Now, that paid out about $23.2 billion. So, indeed, it does appear that Saylor's $30 billion trade is perhaps the largest trade in history. ... Almost. Look, why am I saying almost? It's a massive trade. See, this is the easy part. It's unrealized profits right now. It can't be the largest in history if Saylor never takes profits. And Saylor said he's never going to take profits. Or he's going to hold Bitcoin forever. And he's even going to take his personal Bitcoin to the grave. That's how committed he is to the cause. And I can assure you that Paulson, he took the money. He realized the profits. He got his $23 billion, stacked it up and looked at it in his garage and said, damn, that's a lot of money. So this is why I use almost when describing Saylor's trade. It's a trade for the history books without a doubt. And by the way, if you want to make your greatest trade in all time, then you need a good place to do that at. Femex, OG cryptocurrency exchange, they've been around for ages. I've been using them for ages. You can buy Bitcoin. You can buy all the top coins. You can buy your dog coins. And they've got an insane offer right now. It's a limited time deal, so make sure you hop on board. Deposit $1,000, get $200 back. Nice. $10,000, they're going to hit you up with $990 cash money back in your account. $15K if you deposit that or more, $1,299 cash back money. That's nuts, man. You can long the rips, short the dips, all the big coins, all the little coins. Here's the kicker. When you use the link exclusively right down below here, not only get those insane deposit bonuses, you're also going to get straight to VIP level 2 instantly, slashing your trading fees by 50% on spot, 40% on futures, which can have a really big impact in the long run. Femex, by the way, is available to anyone, anywhere, which is probably you. You might need a VPN in some cases, okay? Don't miss out. Link down below. Go check it out. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we've got an idea of the sheer size of Saylor's position, the amount of unrealized profits, and that amount of Bitcoin he's currently accumulated. So let's shift to asking what all this means moving forward for the price of our Bitcoin bags. And it's here where things get particularly interesting. So here's my two-part thesis on the whole topic. Right out of the gate, the first part is that Michael Saylor's current position, everything that he's done and everything that he is telegraphed that he's going to do in the future is probably incredibly fantastic for our Bitcoin bags from now through, well, let's say September of 2028, about around there. Look at all the other digital asset treasury companies, 21, Nakamoto, Semler, and on and on and on. The second part is that Saylor's strategy does pose some price risks to Bitcoin. But again, the odds that any of these risks could actually spiral into real crisis probably won't come relevant until 2028 or later. So let's discuss the first part, why everything that Saylor is doing is pretty fantastic for us and our bags, at least for the next few years. Long story short, it's this.
When do you stop buying Bitcoin for MicroStrategy? Never.
No, I tell people we will be buying Bitcoin at the top forever. I'm not trying to time the market. I don't intend to stop.
So you heard it right there. 3 years ago, Saylor told the world that he never intends to stop buying Bitcoin regardless of the price. And so far, he's made pretty damn good on that word. It's been pretty incredible to watch the non-stop buys, the non-stop fundraises for Bitcoin over a strategy. It's been insane pressure on the buy side. By buying fresh batches of Bitcoin week after week for about the last 5 years now, he's accumulated $30 billion in unrealized profits. That's insane. So let the good times roll. If Saylor is going to pump our bags, then I'm going to ride this gravy train for as long as it possibly goes. Thanks, Michael. However, this is where it makes sense to remind ourselves exactly how Saylor is buying all of this Bitcoin. It's not because he just has billions of dollars laying around, just throwing a Bitcoin every week. He thought, why not? No, Saylor buys his Bitcoin because investors, people like you and me, along with large hedge funds and institutions, keep giving him the money to do it. And it's this realization that keys us into the risks to his strategy, to strategy. So let me repeat it. Saylor can buy his Bitcoin because investors, both retail and institutional, keep giving him the money to do it. It's really that simple. These investors, of course, are not doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. They're getting something for it. Rather, they are expecting a nice return on their investment. Fair enough, right? So to put it all another way, Saylor is buying his Bitcoin with leverage of one variety or another. There's a lot of different product strategies released at this point, but this borrowed money is being used by Bitcoin, and all his creditors are expecting, of course, is to get that money back with some profits at some point in the future. That's what they invest for. Now, we can't get into all the specifics here because there's a lot of different products available. Generally, Saylor is generating his cash by selling a menu of various stock products, and he's now also selling convertible debt, which you can think of this convertible debt like U.S. Treasury bonds, less secure because it's not a U.S. Treasury bond, obviously, but it's the same kind of idea. Instead of buying bonds from the U.S. government, you're buying bonds from Strategy, the company. And this all leads into the second part of the thesis. If Saylor's strategy is going to pose a risk to the price of Bitcoin, that risk probably begins to become more relevant in September of 2020. Because that's when the first tranche of his convertible debt becomes due. So when thinking about the risks to strategy from a more, let's say, macro perspective, the idea is this. What happens if Saylor's convertible debt becomes due in 2028 and, well, the price of Bitcoin has not performed in the way that we all hoped that it would? We're all hoping Bitcoin's going to be $500,000 by then. But what if it isn't? What happens if the creditors demand cash repayment instead of converting their debt into new shares? Problematic. What happens if Saylor is then forced to sell some Bitcoin to cover these payments? Nobody wants to buy his stocks. The company doesn't have enough cash. They're forced sellers. What happens in that situation? Because if strategy ever becomes tight for cash, they not only pause their Bitcoin purchases, but there's the very real possibility that to service some of this debt, they may have to sell off some of their Bitcoin, probably at the worst possible time in the market too, I'd imagine. And we all know about the panic that would rage across the crypto space if that were to happen. That's the big risk that we're talking about here. Now, Saylor's infinite money glitch can unwind. Will it? Remains to be seen. It's a pretty genius move so far. Now, there's other ways this glitch can unwind too, apart from the one that I described. But again, I think it's probably party time until at least the end of 2028 for the Saylor MicroStrategy bid. And we have a lot of other companies coming in too, and they're also going to be buying up huge amounts of Bitcoin. And then we'll need to reassess at that point. There's been theories that America will take over Strategy at some point too and use that for their treasury. But that's a whole different video. Anyway, circling back to the first half of this video. Yes, Saylor's trade is almost the largest trade in history, but Mr. Saylor, if you're watching this, I, on behalf of all of us plebs, want to personally thank you for choosing not to make history and realize those profits, okay, and keeping this trade as an almost basically forever unless some unforeseeable events happen in the future. It's an epic one, man. And the conviction, absolutely incredible. Love it. Thanks for watching.